Dude, wake up.
Cecil, where are we?
I have no idea, but it's Monday, so I'm guessing it's this before-show Eli shenanigans?
You know, I've always wondered, should we set shenanigans on Mondays or Wednesdays? Because Wednesdays are the release days, and I'm worried that the Monday reference takes people out of it.
There you are. Eli, where the hell are we?
Oh, a desert island. You know, for this week's episode. Just a group of guys hanging out in the sun, nobody to bother them. Honestly, I think this is going to be great.
It was not great. Eli, did you even read the essay, man?
Cecil, I don't even read my essays. But look at Heath and Tom. They're having a blast.
Tom, throw me that coconut. No. Nice. Okay, back up.
Look, Eli, I'm all for fun in the sun, I guess, but this is a story of people who barely survive a shipwreck. This isn't going to be a good time.
I mean, to be fair with us, neither would a beach day.
Ow! Tom, that was a rock. It looked coconutty to me.
I see what you mean, man.
Ow! Tom, that was another rock. Okay, one of these has to be a coconut. Hello and welcome to Citation Needed, a podcast where we choose a subject, read a single article about it on Wikipedia, and pretend we're experts. Because this is the internet, and that's how it works now. I'm Heath, and I'll be the captain for this maritime disaster. And I'm joined by two other guys who put the curvy and scurvy just like me, Tom and Cecil.
All the port in a storm, Heath. All of the port.
And I sail a junk with a trunk.
Nice. Junk's type of boat.
Well
That
done.
was really good.
Yep. It is. Mhm.
And we also have a guy who puts the scurvy in scurvy. I think he just has scurvy. And a guy with almond milk leg, Noah and Eli.
I'll have you know, I drink so much Mountain Dew, my cats are immune to scurvy, okay?
Yeah. And to be fair, I just have this so I can sneak it into concerts at this point. It's just for, cool.
All right. Noah, what person, place, thing, concept, phenomenon, or event are we going to be talking about today?
The wreck of the HMS Wager.
All right. And would you like to name a book that you've read before we start?
Yeah. Yes. Guy who literally does whole fucking episodes about the trauma of being forced to read a book in 10th grade. I would like to name a book.
Sometimes I reread them.
Because I've actually been dying to tell you guys this story ever since I read The Wager, A Tale of Shipwreck, Mutiny, and Murder by, well, look at this, non-Bill Bryson author, David Gran.
Okay. How many pages was that book?
I don't know.
Too slow.
It was an audio
So
book.
what was the HMS Wager?
It was, according to its Wikipedia article, a square-rigged 6th-rate Royal Navy warship of 28 guns. It was originally built for use by the East India Company, then purchased by the British Navy in 1739 in the run-up to war.
And now it's Heath's car.
Yeah, well, it spoiled the ending. Damn,
Isn't that
dude.
a fire?
Now, so now this may conjure images of like a container ship with a bunch of guns haphazardly stuck to it, Tears of the Kingdom style, but it was actually built as a fighting ship. It's just that back then trading companies built warships to accompany their fleets.
I get it. I once went to Costco on a Sunday, so yeah, sure.
No, it's like that. Yeah. Now, the war that this purchase was in the run-up to probably should have an episode all by itself. This is the so-called War of Jenkins' Ear, which was a mercantile war between Spain and Great Britain. Now, if you read the British accounts, they'll generally tell you that this war was to ensure British access to South American trade. If you read the Spanish accounts, they tend to emphasize the fact that the trade in question was the slave trade. But at its heart, it was a war that happened because Spain had a lot of money and England was pretty sure they could kick Spain's ass.
Okay, that's a weird angle for the propaganda from Spain, right? They're like, England is evil because they want to be part of the slave trade that we're dominating.
Right, they want to be part of our slave trade.
England would make
Yes.
slave trade unethical if they get involved.
Okay, and I'm sorry, are we just going to leave the Jenkins ear reference dangling there? Is no one going to pierce this mystery?
Well, now I want to wait if I'm going to get puns
Your
like
stuff. Nice.
this. So, of course, you can't drum up public support for a war by saying, well, we need to bully the rich kid and sell slaves. So in an effort to humanize the conflict, the companies pushing for war trot out this dude named Robert Jenkins.
There it is.
So he was the captain of a British
globalist.
ship. So he was the captain of a British ship that was boarded by the Spanish, and while they were searching his ship, the Spanish Coast Guard allegedly cut off his ear. He was actually invited to tell his story in Parliament, and he brought the pickled ear with him for emphasis in a jar.
Who was looking at his missing ear and remaining skeptical about the story of him missing an ear? Somebody was like, show me how it fits. Like, what
So
are
why
you
don't you have
trying
him
to-
autograph
missing.
it before you tore it off? Yeah, right.
Show me again, but let me play stuck in the middle with you really quickly.
So in light of the dramatic testimony and the fear of violent ear removal that it engendered in the public, the British people demanded war, even though this shit happened 9 years before Jenkins testified about it. So the British government obliged, and on October 19th of 1739, they declared war on Spain.
You know, Noah, when you teased us with a war called the War of Jenkins' Ear, I did not think it was going to be a war about avenging the ear of a guy named Jenkins. So you know what? That's
Right?
on me.
Yes.
That is on me.
Yeah, England and Spain really kept the whole slave trade civil until that white guy lost his ears.
Yeah,
So-
right. Yeah, no, exactly. Now, of course, despite the fact that England and Spain are only like 500 miles apart as the crow flies, the fighting here is primarily going to take place in New Granada. That would be the part of northern South America that Spain controlled at the time. Basically, like Brazil's hat. And that meant England needed to augment its navy, which is where the wager comes in. But it turns out that it's actually far easier to buy up existing ships and fill out your navy than it is to find crews of qualified men to fill them up. No, but so that's where all the stupid that's going to make up this episode starts.
I mean, the English are faking a war over a pickled ear so they can call dibs on some slaves. Not all the stupid of
No,
the
that's
episode.
true.
No,
There
we're
are
already into it.
specific.
We're already into it a
yeah,
little bit.
right. No, you're fair. That's fair. That's fair. So the wager was first pressed into service as part of a squadron under the control of Commodore George Anson. I guess also last pressed into service for this reason. The flotilla included 6 warships and 2 supply ships, and Anson's target was the greatest prize on the sea, a Spanish treasure ship called the Manila Galleon, which carried riches from Spain's South American colonies to Asian ports. And to do this, Anson was given the aforementioned 8 ships and 1,980 men, including both crew and infantry. Now, spoiler alert, some like 197 of these people are going to make it to the end of the story, so don't get attached to anybody. So now, the first sign that this might not be a great assignment was the British Navy's trouble filling out those 1,980 open positions on the ship. After they ran out of volunteers, which was very early on, they started the usual process of just kidnapping anybody who looked like a sailor or a person from a trade that might come in handy on a ship. But even that couldn't fill out their ranks, so they topped it off by going to the Chelsea Military Hospital and rounding up 470 wounded soldiers who'd been declared unfit to return to service.
What?
And yeah, and we're talking grievously wounded men. Like, no shit, several dozen of them had to be loaded into the ships on stretchers.
Okay, so it's going to be catapulting human bodies during the battle to freak out the Spanish people? or like winning by a show of hands? At a certain, like it's a democracy battle? Either way, I'll be impressed, I guess.
Yeah. Don't they know how dangerous a boat trip can be? That's how you kill a Scottish queen if you're not careful. Come on.
Right? Yeah.
2 episodes ago, a queen.
No, it's all in the same night for
We're
us.
recording on one night. I'm very tired.
And although I'm sure most of you have already realized this, I should emphasize here that the squadron's departing from England and their target is in the Pacific Ocean, which is fucking hell and gone from England. As you'll recall, of course, from episode 151, the Panama Canal didn't open until 1903, which meant that Anson's ships would have to cross the Atlantic during wartime, sail all the way down the South American coast, most of which would be controlled by the country they were at war with at this point, make the notoriously difficult traverse around the Horn of South America, and then sail all the hell way back up the hostile South American coast, which much more of which is controlled on that side by the Spanish. So it's exactly the kind of thing that you'd want able-bodied seamen for, right? Or at least people who can walk up the gangplank of their own accord. But not only were they going to do this with a crew that was nearly 1/4 invalid, but because of delays, disease, and ever-present bouts of scurvy, a fuck ton of that crew wouldn't even survive the trip across the Atlantic.
Scurvy is killing off our men at alarming numbers, and there is only one thing to do. throw more bodies at the problem until we tire that scurvy out.
Right?
That's so close to what they were doing. No. So when the ships first set off, the Wager's captained by the audaciously named Dandy Kidd. And it's a real fucking shame that we lose him early. But unfortunately, Kidd was among the considerable group that died during the Atlantic crossing. And through a bit of officer shuffling, a lieutenant from the flotilla's smallest ship winds up getting promoted to acting captain of the Wager. This guy's name is David Cheap. And by my reading of this, Cheap is going to show himself to be a very brave, very ambitious, and medium competent guy. Exactly the combo you don't want if you're about to round the ocean's most notorious passage with a crew full of scurvy-ridden invalids.
It is, however, ideal for a podcast. So if
No,
anyone
that
knows
it is,
anything-
actually. So, needless to say, the rounding of the Cape didn't go great. Their mission left port way later than intended and got repeatedly delayed along the way. And that led them to enter the most treacherous part of their journey at the most treacherous time of the year to do it.
Christmas.
Well, South American Christmas, I guess. And we have to emphasize how hard navigation was at this time, right?
Navidad.
What?
While you could mark latitude with a sextant and a view of the sun, there was no way to check your longitude en route at that point, right? So the best you could do is try to keep track of how fast you were going and how west you were going and multiply those two. And in 1739, it's not like they had super detailed charts of the maze of islands, bays, and inlets along Cape Horn. Add to that terrible storms and continuous fog, and it's no surprise that during the tumultuous attempt, the Wager got separated from the rest of the ships.
Okay, you know how a kindergarten class, they all grab big rope when they walk down the road together and then nobody gets lost? We're going to do that. Everybody's gone. Everybody's gone. What the fuck happened?
Yeah.
They're all gone.
Yeah, I get it. I still use a GPS to drive my kids to school.
Right.
So,
No.
yeah.
So at this point, acting Captain Cheap decides he knows better than everybody else. He ignores the advice of his officers, and he makes a few questionable decisions about where to go and how to get there. Now, in Cheap's defense, he knew shit about the orders that the other officers didn't know, so it's entirely possible he was doing the correct thing. But the important thing is that the bulk of the crew didn't think he was. And that got way more important when it became clear that Cheap's chosen course of action was going to lead them into a shipwreck. On May 13th of 1741, the ship enters an uncharted bay that's big enough that they had no idea they were in it for a long time. They thought they were still in the open ocean. When they realized their mistake, though, they tried to turn back. Weather turned to shit. The ship wound up trapped in the bay. Cheap gets injured at this point. He ends up dislocating his shoulder. He's got to be confined below decks. And at 4:30 a.m. the following morning, the Wager strikes a rock and destroys the ship's tiller. Though it does stay afloat at the time. It tears open a huge chunk of the ship, partially floods. Needless to say, the invalids below that hadn't already died of scurvy drown at this point. So by daybreak, the ship was stuck fast near a small uninhabited island, which would soon earn the name Wager Island, which it's known by today. So most of the remaining crew makes it to the lifeboat and launches for terra firma. But a large contingent decides that it's hopeless and they're all doomed anyway. And among the supplies the Wager was carrying for the flotilla was the bulk of the supply of rum. So
Nice.
much of the crew, in the words of the wiki, quote,
Party.
broke into the spirit room and got drunk,
Yep.
armed themselves, and began looting, dressing up in officers' clothes, and fighting. End
Okay.
quote.
Okay, we're all going to die. Let's drink. Makes perfect sense to me.
Yes.
We're all going to die. Let's dress up fancy and fucking punch each other. Absolutely. Totally
Sure.
get that. But the looting? Who?
Oh, no, I get that.
Who are you looting?
No. Heath, I get that because if I die, I'm dying rich.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah. So Cheap and the relatively sober part of the crew get the people and all the supplies they can carry to shore. Eventually, the bottom of the ship's hull cracks open and most of the drunks that stay behind drown, but the ones that remain start firing the cannons to signal that they've changed their minds and would like to abandon ship now. So Cheap sent a few men back to pick up the last few survivors.
Okay, I feel like they were just fucking around. They come back and they're like, no, the guys we're just shooting cannons. We're going to die. We got drunk and we're doing a cannon shooting for fun.
First mate calling up to him. So are you done with your little tantrum now? Are we done? We gonna be good now?
No.
I'll sit outside all night.
I'll stay here all night.
So given the confidence so far, I'm surprised shooting the cannons, they didn't sink their own lifeboats.
Right. Right? Shoot it on shore. You know, the guys. Now, to be clear, they weren't exactly doing these people a favor by picking them up. They were on a small, uninhabited island with no large game, no recognizably edible plants, and a much smaller supply of food than they had of stomachs. On top of that, they were wrecked near the southernmost point in South America, right at the beginning of Southern Hemisphere winter. What's more, the crew was divided about how much blame Cheap deserved for the predicament, so military discipline was already starting to break down.
All right. It sounds like we're about to have some very polite, very bland English cuisine cannibal meals. But first, we're going to take a quick break for some apropos of nothing.
Sorry, who are we meeting?
It's better you just see.
Don't love that.
I don't love that either.
Hey, there he is.
Carl, what's up? You remember Cecil?
Yeah. No, we've been on game together.
Oh, of course. Yeah, you guys been on GAM.
Wait, the dog is on a gam?
He's actually a
Pegacorn.
pegacorn.
Heyo!
Whoa, what up?
What's up, Crabgrass? How you doing, buddy?
Doing good. How are you?
Sorry, who is this?
Oh, so this is the Wool Dasher Mizzle. He is a fae named after a shoe.
Hi, Faye.
Hi, fae. He and Heath don't usually get along.
Okay, sorry, guys. Why are we meeting these people?
Oh, because of the ads.
Sorry, all these people are on the show now because of the ads?
Because of the ads. Yeah, it's part of a psychosexual fugue state thing that's going on.
It's a podcastiverse.
It's a psychosexual fugue state, like I said.
Okay, all right, okay. But how do we feed all these people?
Oh, that's easy. With HelloFresh.
What's HelloFresh?
Oh, man. I mean, nailed it.
What an
Nailed
entry. So good.
So good.
It's America's #1 meal
Oh my
kit.
God, what is wrong with her?
She's inside out.
Kickstart a fresh fall routine with HelloFresh. HelloFresh handles all your meal planning and shopping to deliver everything you need to cook up a tasty meal right at home. They do the hard part and you get to take the credit.
I don't know, guys. All these people and dogs and whatever that is, they all eat different stuff, right?
Really, Tom? That's your concern now?
No, I see where he's coming from, Crunch Biggins. When it comes to options, honestly, more is more. That's why HelloFresh's menu includes 40 recipes and over 100 add-on items to choose from every week.
That is a lot of variety.
And when you get HelloFresh, you know you're getting top-notch produce since it travels from the farm to your door in less than 7 days.
Who's the octopus?
Oh, it's Boofenstein, the octopus.
Boofenstein. Yeah, of
Boofenstein.
course.
He's right, though. I became a HelloFresh customer when they became a sponsor, and I love the variety and how easy it is to unpack. That's why I, Heath Enright, personally endorse HelloFresh as a product.
All right, guys, I'm convinced. Where do I sign up?
Oh, you're going to go to hellofresh.com/50citation and use code 50citation for 50% off plus 15% off the next 2 months.
Why does she have a sock puppet?
You don't want to know about the sock
Yeah,
puppet.
we'd have to do a make good on the ad.
Okay, all
Skip
right,
it.
right. So go to HelloFresh.com/50citation. Use the code 50citation for 50% off plus 15% for the next 2 months.
Exactly.
Thanks, Carl.
I'm Edna. How dare you?
I'm just going to call my old job and see maybe, if they...
Yeah, I also want to call your old job.
Those guys are weird.
Right? Thank you for saying that, Edna. Thank you.
And now, Captain Jenkins, I'm afraid I must take something from you as a warning to the English big dogs that sent you.
Totally understand. So, do you mind if I just,
Sorry?
hey, right, I've billed us to the asking, but, can I keep it?
Keep what?
My ear. You're gonna cut off my ear, right?
I mean, yes. You want to keep it?
Yeah, sure do. Nice souvenir for the folks at home, ain't it? Here's the ear that the Spaniards cut off, or say.
I mean, it's going to get gross.
Like, super gross.
Thank you.
No. I bought a pickle jar.
A pickle jar.
Yep. As soon as you cut off my ear, I'll just pop it in there, and Bob's my uncle. Bob's my ear, as the case may be, right?
So you were just carrying around a jar in case someone cut off your ear.
No, don't be silly. I brought 2.
In case someone cut off both your ears?
No. Other ones in case I get caught cheating on the missus.
Boo!
Fuck you, Cecil. You write a sketch then.
Boo.
You write a fucking sketch.
Boo.
And we're back. When we left off, the suicidal drunk people made the absolute correct move. What's next for everybody else?
So at this point, everybody knows they're not going to be able to just tough this out, right? But the ship's gunner and its most experienced seaman, John Bulkley, has a plan. With the help of the ship's carpenter, a dude by the name of John Cummins, he's figured out that he could lengthen the lifeboat so that it could hold more men, convert it to a schooner with parts salvaged from the wreck, sail through the Strait of Magellan, and make their way up the coast of South America to Portuguese-controlled Brazil. But Cheap insists that instead of Brazil, they need to continue to the planned rendezvous with the rest of the squadron and go take the Spanish treasure ship. Despite the fact that they would be essentially in an improvised life raft with no guns, and the fact that Cheap's route would take them by at least a dozen Spanish encampments along the Chilean shore.
No, trust me, guys. We sing a few verses of fucking Margaritaville. They'll let us right by. It'll seem like we're Spanish. That's Spanish, right?
We'll take the Spanish by surprise, in that they will be surprised how easy it is to kill us.
Yeah, really?
Right?
Right. Well, so here's the thing. Cheap's motivations don't exactly line up with everybody else. The ship wrecked. He was the captain. That means one way or the other, he's going to get court-martialed. And since all his surviving warrant officers and the dead ones' fucking logbooks are going to testify that they urged him to act otherwise than he did, there's a very high chance he's going to get drummed out of the Navy altogether and live out his life in abject poverty. But if they turn back, there's also the possibility he'll be convicted of cowardice. And the sentence for that one is death. So eventually, he refused. He told everybody that they were going to rejoin the flotilla just as soon as they could launch their new schooner. I should point out that according to the rules of the British Navy, shipwreck or no, the chain of command stays the same. Cheap is still in charge. So if they do anything other than what he says, that's mutiny, and the penalty for mutiny is also death.
Okay, what if the captain tells everyone to do a mutiny? Do we then? No, because then no matter what we do, we're all dead, right?
All of us get killed. So a group of people coalesce around Bulkley, and they start making plans for how they could legally depose the captain. And then the captain made it way easier on him by shooting a midshipman in the face.
Okay, to be fair, that strategy worked really well for Dick Cheney, okay?
Right, yeah. Right, and he had this warning to go on. So Cheap is having an increasingly difficult time maintaining order in a situation that people increasingly blame him for.
Oh, sure. Blame the guy in charge for every little decision he makes.
Right? And at the same time,
Yes.
but they really need order at this point, right? They have dwindling supplies of food. People are stealing it left and right. To keep theft at a minimum, Cheap is having people flogged if they are caught stealing. And that's a punishment that half the survivors think is too harsh and the other half think is too light. And eventually, a fight breaks out. Cheap decides to break it up by murdering one of the combatants.
I like to think of flogging as like pre-tenderizing your cannibal Happy Meal. That's really a good step in the process. Hello, Flesh.
Now, to be clear, Cheap is within his legal right as the ship's captain to have someone killed for insubordination. And that's what he said. This guy was being insubordinate. But you have to do that like officially.
It's
right?
like
You can order-
declassifying documents.
Right, exactly. Right, yeah, you can't just declare it. You can't just shoot a guy in the face at point blank range. He's not even on Fifth Avenue at this point. So to
You
make
got to
matters
do the
worse,
paperwork first, or it'll
right,
be the
exactly.
wrong thing
You
to
need
do.
shooting people in the face paperwork. Exactly. Thank you, Tom. So to make matters worse, Cheap refused medical treatment to the dude that he shot, and it took him 10 agonizing days to die. Now, there is some dispute about whether Cheap actually refused medical care or just refused to use medical supplies on the guy. But either way, the people who favored mutiny were finding all kinds of new justifications.
Listen, we had the doctor stitch up your bullet holes, but thread is being rationed. So it was really just it was just the needle making more holes, I guess. Technically, that counts as medical care, though, we did care for you.
Yeah. That feels like it would be a rough 10 days for everyone involved.
Fuck my fucking face! Ow!
Still going at it, huh?
Yep.
I got to tell you, shooting someone, that is not how it looks in the puppet shows.
No, I know.
What do you mean no bandages? Go ask again! Jesus!
But I mean, you saw how it was out there. I had to keep order.
No, I get it. I get it. You were in a tough spot. But can I say,
Oh my God. You're going to talk about feeling good again, aren't you?
if you would just read Feeling Good, maybe you'd understand that nobody can make you mad. Only you can make you mad, Captain.
Oh, what does that mean? That is nothing. That's nothing.
It's not nothing. Think about it.
Oh, my face hurts so bad! Ow, fuck!
I mean, look, I do not know how much longer I can take this. He's going to keep whining like this forever, and then the crew is going to mute.
Fortune-telling mind reading.
What?
Your fortune-telling mind reading. Just those are the thought distortions you're doing right now.
I shot the wrong guy in the face.
Labeling.
Ah!
So it's also worth noting that while all of this is going on, they actually do meet a tribe of indigenous nomads who show them how to forage for food on the island and probably could have gotten them out of danger altogether. But there was so much clear animosity and infighting among the Wager's crew that the natives ultimately fucked off in the middle of the night without warning.
Yeah, so we're just gonna go to the gas station to get some cigarettes. You guys need anything while we're gone, or
Crew's all like, yes, food, please.
okay, bye.
So anyway, so ultimately, Bulkley and his would-be mutineers figured they had the veneer of legality. They were going to arrest Cheap for murder, which they sort of technically were allowed to do, right? Chain of Command promotes one of Bulkley's guys to acting captain, and then he orders them to head back towards Brazil. They even drew up a little cover-your-ass contract and got a bunch of guys to sign it so they could spread the blame around later.
We shall sail to Brazil, I said, with palpable courage, which is the opposite of cowardice. Everybody heard that. That was definitely heard by the undersigned. Yes.
Yes.
Palpable courage.
Super close to that. But there's like a logistical problem with this plan, right? Namely, there's no fucking way that you're going to be able to confine a man on this big ass life raft with scores of other people, and it's like everything's uncovered. You're not going to be able to like hold him in chains for several weeks, and especially when he still commands the loyalty of a significant percentage of the crew. So ultimately, they decided the only real solution was to maroon the captain and his loyal inner circle and take the life raft for themselves.
Yeah, so let's see. We can't kill the captain quickly. We'd get in trouble for that. But let's see. We can kill him slowly and then get in trouble for that. Yes, I have solved the problem.
Of course, marooning the captain isn't what most of the people on the life raft agreed to, and it's way more obviously and clearly mutiny and really slow murder. And that ends up being important because the new schooner, which they had christened the Speedwell, barely even made it off of Wager Island before the sail tour. They're like, wow, we're going to need more spare sails. So they sent the smaller boat that they had, which was supposed to be able to go ashore and gather supplies along the way. They sent that boat back to get a couple of tents from Wager Island to use as spare sails.
That's awkward at that moment.
Really bad.
Right? Yeah. Oh, shit. We forgot a couple of things. Hi, guys. We forgot some stuff. But here's the thing.
We're gonna be really quick. Don't even look at me. Don't even look at me.
Well, but here's the thing. It was so fucking awkward that the people that they sent back just decided like they didn't want to be part of the mutiny anymore, and they stayed with the captain on the island. Interesting side note. One of the guys on that little boat was a dude named John Byron, whose grandson, George Gordon Byron, would help inspire the genre of science fiction by being so boring that when Mary Shelley faced spending a weekend with him, she said, what if we all wrote novels? Wouldn't that be fun?
Okay, he wasn't just boring, Noah. He was also probably trying to fuck her. So there was a lot of good reasons.
Like trying to boringly fuck her, clearly. But ultimately, the Speedwell set out with 81 men, and 30 of them would make it to Brazil. 33 of them would starve en route, and the other 18 were just fucking abandoned. Like, when Bulkley did the math and saw that they didn't have enough supplies to keep everybody from starving, he just picked 10 men and abandoned them on an island along the way. And then he like made him sign a consent form for doing it and everything.
Smart.
And then he checked. Yeah, right. No, so that he won't get in trouble. But then he checked the math again later and decided like he hadn't like left enough guys, so he abandoned another 8
Jesus
dudes.
Christ.
Okay. So many arguments about how that rock, paper, scissors tournament was going to work and like
Right,
seedings and on 3 or 4. That was a long argument.
Look, you 8 are just going to have to stay one night with grandma, just one night. Daddy and mommy have to talk some things out, just one night.
You know, at this point, it's like they're just leaving a trail of like meat breadcrumbs for their return.
Really?
You know?
Yes. So eventually, though, the speedwell made its way to Brazil, and they were given something of a hero's welcome since everybody had long since given them up for dead. And since they didn't exactly come right out and say, well, yeah, we actually left a trail of meat breadcrumbs all the fucking way from Cape Horn to Rio, the international press lionized their daring tale of survival. Bulkley managed to actually turn a healthy profit off that celebrity by publishing his narrative of the voyage, which served the dual purposes of making him a bunch of money and allowing him to craft the first version of the narrative that most people would hear. Needless to say, it wasn't exactly honest.
And that's when 18 men stood up and said, no, new captain who we all agreed to. I want to starve on this reef. You have to let me sign that piece of paper.
They all stood on their desks, literally. Oh, captain, my captain. It was crazy. We had desks also there. What?
But of course, none of the mutineers were going to contradict Bulkley's narrative so long as it was, keeping them out of the gallows. So things might have gone fine for them, except that Cheap didn't die on Wager Island like he was supposed to. See, about the time that him and his remaining retinue just threw up their hands and gave up, a couple more indigenous nomads happened upon them. After a bit of negotiation, they agreed to trade their remaining supplies in exchange for passage to the nearest Spanish settlement. Now, this was a fucking 4-month trek. Most of the people who started it died along the way, but 4 guys made it all the way, Cheap among them. He was a Spanish prisoner at this point, but he was an alive Spanish prisoner.
Ugh, I knew I should have played Duolingo along the way.
This is why you always shoot him now, never wait till you get home. I don't understand how, they thought it was more ethical to slowly kill them by marooning. That's worse and dumber.
Right?
Yes, thank you.
So the War of Jenkins' Ear technically carries on to 1748, but the hostilities wrap up around 1742. And around that time, Spain and England agree to release all the POWs that they're holding. Well, that includes Cheap, Byron, and the other 2 surviving loyalists. And needless to say, their accounts didn't line up with Bulkley's. And perhaps even worse for them, 3 of those last 8 guys that they kicked off of the Speedwell also managed to survive and make a miraculous return to England. They spent months stoning sea lions to death for food, and then they made a 300-mile overland trek towards Buenos Aires, but then they got captured by natives and enslaved and sold to Spanish colonists and then imprisoned for refusing to convert to Catholicism and then released in the big prisoner exchange.
Okay, look, all religions made up nonsense, but I am in awe of this kind of tenacity. I convert to the fucking metric system if I got a ham sandwich out of it.
Yes.
Much less out of a Spanish prison. Are you fucking kidding me?
So, also, I just learned that to kill a sea lion, you have to stone it.
You
guessed.
don't have to. So by the time everybody makes it back to England, there are half a dozen competing narratives, none of them true, and a public desperate for more details. So naturally, the Navy holds a court-martial and puts everyone on trial. And ultimately, they find that nobody did much of anything wrong, and everybody should just forgive and forget.
I feel like that's right, though. They all you have to. If everybody's gonna die unless you kill 18 people, you should kill 18 people, right?
So you can't shoot people in the face, and you can't maroon your captain.
Maybe
all
not
kind
in
of
the
shit
face,
they
but
can't do.
maybe
But
in the face. I don't know. That's fast. Do it better.
But here's the thing: the whole situation is a huge embarrassment for the Navy. From the criminally undermanned mission to the speed with which British subjects descended into barbarism, and since their whole colonial identity rested on the fiction that British people were inherently better and more civilized than, people that they were colonizing, the fact that their subjects, and even their fucking military officers, turned out to be far more savage than any of the natives they encountered along the way, well, the Navy brass feared that any genuine effort to unearth the truth might accidentally unearth the truth, right? So instead, there were just slaps on the wrist all around.
All right, guys, look, it's not about who marooned who to die on a desert island. We all made mistakes. Hey, Bulky let those 18 guys who insisted on dying for him do it. He feels terrible about that, you know? And so,
all right, no, that totally makes sense. So no more failed colonialism for England starting now. In 1748 or whatever.
Yeah, right. No, it's going to go swimmingly from here. So in an interesting postscript to the story, by the way, I should add that despite the loss of the Wager and several more of his ships and more than 90% of his crew, and despite the fact that the Wager was carrying most of the ammunition, Commodore Anson ultimately did manage to capture the Manila galleon in one of the most lopsided victories in British naval history. And then he returned to England via the Indian Ocean, meaning that he and his meager band of 187 survivors also managed to circumnavigate the globe along the way.
Nice work. All right. If you had to summarize what you've learned in one sentence, what would it be?
Don't name your ship after gambling words. You're just asking.
All right. And are you ready for the quiz?
Oh, hell yeah.
PointsBet schooner.
all right, Noah. In the style of the War of Jenkins' Ear, what should the United States have called the war in Iraq? A, the War of Dick Cheney's oil interests. B, the Battle of Iranian troop positions. C, the conquest of George W. Bush's daddy issues. Or D, war crimes. Probably should have
Oh,
called
no,
that
it's
war
D.
crime.
Yeah,
it is.
it's very obvious. It's definitely D. I was worried that I wouldn't get it right, and then you said D, and it was very clear.
It's correct. It's D.
Noah, what's one thing you get tired of eating on this deserted island? A wage salad. B, macarooned. C,
There it is, Cecil. There it is.
C, beach cobbler. D, a ground round. Or E,
Ground round.
E, coupe de jour.
Oh, nice. Oh shit. It's between beach cobbler and a round. I'm gonna go C, beach cobbler.
Oh, I am. No, you win. Yeah, it's absolutely C,
Yeah, I got
beach
it.
cobbler.
So
You're
that's
right. You're right.
All right, Noah. The HMS Wager seemed doomed from the start. Why? A, the whole voyage was too much of a gamble. B, if that pun didn't grab you, I bet I've got another one. C, no, I do not. Those are the puns
I'm gonna go with C. No, you do not.
Yeah, Noah definitely wins. Nice.
All right. Awesome. Well, I want a Tom essay next then, damn it.
All right.
Excellent. For Cecil, Noah, Tom, and Eli, I'm Heath. Thank you for hanging out with us today. We'll be back next week, and Tom will be an expert on something else. Between now and then, you can hear Tom and Cecil on Cognitive Dissonance, and you can hear Eli, Noah, and myself on God Awful Movies, The Scathing Atheist, Skeptocrat, and D&D Minus. And if you'd like to get a beautiful, unadulterated, ad-free version of every episode that is not, in fact, Adolf Hitler, and you'd also like the ethical superiority of paying for your porn, those are both nice things, you can make a per-episode donation at patreon.com/citationpod. And if you'd like to get in touch with us, listen to past episodes, connect with us on social media, or take a look at the show notes, check out citationpod.com.
And so I, the magistrate of Her Majesty's Navy, release you all from all charges of this unfortunate incident.
You gotta be kidding me. He's stranded me on an island and stole my boat.
It sounds like someone's letting their distortions about must create their thoughts.
Oh, this guy gets it. REBT, right?
REBT. Totally.